A very good evening to you and a warm welcome to the news live on Channel I. I'm Sharifa Tahir.
And I'm Dhamagek Naika. Coming up are your top stories.
The Prime Minister says religious harmony is the foundation of peace and reconciliation. The Cope makes Arjun Mahendran culpable for central bank bond issue. A bulletproof jeep worth 70 million rupees found from a garage in Batticaloe. A revelation of a stock of expired mackerel imported from Norway. Republican Vice President candidate escapes accident.
We move on to those and other stories in detail now. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe points out that religious harmony is the foundation of peace and reconciliation. The Premier made these remarks while attending a special ceremony held at the Temple Trees today to mark Deepavali festival, which falls tomorrow. It was held under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena and Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. Deepavali is a religious ceremony celebrated by Hindus. Various functions are organized throughout the country to mark the day. Deepavali ceremony at Temple Trees was organized under the instructions of Prime Minister. A group of MPs and ministers, including opposition leader R. Sambandhan, and a group of diplomats were also present at the occasion. Opposition leader R. Sambandhan, who spoke on the occasion, said the Tamil community is given opportunity to walk from dark to light under the good governance. He also expressed belief that an environment where all communities can live in harmony will be created under the leadership of the President and the Prime Minister.
Prime Minister
Ranil Wickremesinghe said the ceremony reflects the culture unique to the country. Deepavali symbolizes the victory of truth. The government, led by President Maithripala Sirisena, is committed to create peace and reconciliation in the country. The Premier pointed out religious harmony is essential in this regard. Initiatives for this purpose were introduced after the victory achieved on the 8th of January. The country remained divided for 50 years from mistrust. War prevailed for 30 years. However, the present government has been able to create a belief among the communities that the country can be taken forward if they work collectively.
Now, the long-awaited report of the Committee on Public Enterprises has determined that former Central Bank Governor Arjun Mahendran is directly responsible for the central bank bond issue. Therefore, it has recommended legal action against those who are responsible, since financial irregularities have clearly taken place in the transaction. Chairman of the COPE, parliamentarian Sunil Handunnethi, tabled the report in Parliament today. It is comprised of 55 pages. However, MP Handunnethi said the total number of pages of the document with annexure and sub-reports is nearly 2,000. It includes 15 conclusions and recommendations reached and made after the investigations. Chairman of the COPE, parliamentarian Sunil Handunnethi, said he would like to inform the House that the committee has found evidence which create a suspicion that former Central Bank Governor Arjun Mahendran had influenced the transaction that took place on the 27th of February 2015, which was also investigated by the committee. He also added that the investigations and the evidence recorded have made it evident that certain activities had no transparency and as a result had damaged the trust of the central bank.
එහිදී කටයුතු කළ ආකාරයෙන් ශ්‍රී ලංකා මහ බැංකුවේ විශ්වාසනීයත්වය පළදු වී ඇති බවද යන්න පිළිබඳ සාධාරණ සැකයක් ඇති විය හැකි ආකාරයේ සාක්ෂිය කරුණු කාරක සභාව ඉදිරියේ හෙළිදරව් වී ඇති බව කාරක සභාව නිරීක්ෂණය කරයි.
The investigations carried out and recorded evidence have revealed that there is no transparency in certain transactions and the trust of the central bank has been damaged. The chairman of the COPE also stated that the Perpetual Treasuries, which is the institute involved in the bond issue, has earned a huge profit. Therefore, he pointed out the loss suffered by the government due to the transaction should be recovered from the institutions and persons who are responsible for it. MP Handunnethi emphasised the Parliament should directly intervene to look into the matter. Therefore, it is the responsibility of Parliament to implement the prevailing prevailing laws to recover the loss suffered by the government. Furthermore, the transparency and the trustworthiness of the monetary control of the central bank have been seriously undermined from the transaction of bonds. Chairman of the COPE, MP Handulnethi, stated that former central bank governor Arjun Mahendran is directly responsible for this controversial transaction, and the committee recommends the House to take legal action against him and other responsible officials. Furthermore, the COPE would also like to recommend to introduce a proper mechanism to safeguard the trust and the transparency of central bank during such transactions, and to amend the prevailing acts on commissions.
විධිමත් යාන්ත්‍රණයක් සැකසීම සහ දැනට පවත්නා විනිමය කොමිෂන් සභා පනත ඇතුළු අදාළ නීති රීති අනපනත් කඩනමින් සංශෝධනය කළ යුතු බව නිර්දේශ කරයි.
He also noted that prevailing laws with regards to foreign exchange commissions should be amended immediately to safeguard the transparency of the transactions and the trustworthiness of the central bank. It was also recommended to give priority to public finance institutions when providing money required by the country through bond issuing process, and to include provisions in this regard in the documents, including the operational guidebook of the central bank. The COPE chairman also said that a report that includes information received by the working committees of the Parliament in this regard and conclusions as well as recommendations of the Auditor General should be presented to Parliament, and an open dialogue should be held on the matter. Although the report was tabled in Parliament with the approval of all COPE members, it was stated that there was a division regarding its content. 16 members of the committee had rejected a report with footnotes, while 9 members had rejected a report without footnotes. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, who addressed the Parliament, said the COPE report was tabled in Parliament under the Good Governance government. Therefore, it is a victory achieved by the parties who are involved in the process. The Premier also pointed out the COPE had challenged the activities of an institute that falls under his purview. He urged the MPs to hold a debate regarding the report after it is printed and distributed among them.
A media briefing to enlighten journalists on the value-added tax and the nation-building tax was held at the Ministry of Finance today. A group of officials of the Fiscal Policy Department attended the press conference. Director General of the Department of Fiscal Policy, A.K. Senviratne, said the amendments will help to collect a revenue of 280 billion rupees this year. It will be between 375 and 380 billion rupees by next year. The amended VAT will be imposed on cigarettes and liquor. Instead of the VAT, a 2% cess tax has already been imposed on mobile phones. The telecommunication levy stands at 25% at present. A reload will include a 1/3 of VAT. A 2% VAT is imposed on electricity bills. The Director General emphasized none of the consumers will be affected since it will be bared by the Ceylon Electricity Board. Views were also expressed on how the new tax revisions will take place in the health sector as well. Tax consultant of the Fiscal Policy Department, Tanuja Pereira, said the value-added tax is not imposed on certain fields of the health sector. The services of the outpatient department, diagnosis and the dialysis tests carried out on kidney patients will be free of VAT. Instead, doctors' charges and hospital room charges fall under the VAT.
Speaker Karu Jayasuriya has chaired the emergency session on Syria called by the Inter-Parliamentary Union Assembly in Geneva, Switzerland recently. The Speaker was in the country attending the IPU Assembly. He was invited to chair the emergency session that discussed the war and the severe humanitarian situation in Syria. Meanwhile, the Speaker and the Sri Lankan delegation also had a courtesy meeting with the Secretary-General of the IPU, Martin Shingon. During the meeting, the Secretary-General noted the positive developments in Sri Lanka and the democratic gains. In reply, the Speaker stressed the contribution of parliaments and parliamentarians in the democratic process and underscored the need to strengthen parliaments as well as the importance of building networks between the parliaments and the parliamentarians.
The Export-Import Bank of Korea is conducting a comprehensive feasibility study to establish an ICT hub for secondary education in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has identified that the availability of a highly skilled labour force is vital to the economic growth as well as to the human resource development to meet the local and foreign labour market demands. Hence, at present, there are increasing needs to expand and improve not only the existing ICT infrastructure but also the software components such as ICT-related education contents, education information standards and methods targeting the secondary education. In this context, the feasibility study to establish an ICT hub for secondary education has much relevance and significance. In addition to the consulting team will provide capacity building programs for officials from the Ministry of Education of Sri Lanka and consultation on e-library and e-learning.
Mine detection dog Alvin and its handler, Lance Corporal Nawaratna of Sri Lanka Army Engineers Humanitarian Demining Unit, has been selected as the Mine Detection Dog Team of the Year. The announcement was made at the annual Clearing the Path Gala 2016 organised by the Marshall Legacy Institute of Washington, D.C. It is an organisation dedicated to removing landmines and promoting stability. The Institute has been assisting the Sri Lankan Army Humanitarian Demining Unit in their humanitarian effort to clear landmines and explosive devices from affected regions in Sri Lanka. Over the years, it has provided 26 mine detection dogs and training with the assistance of private donors and the U.S. Department of State.
A bulletproof jeep worth 70 million rupees parked at a garage in Batticaloa has been seized by the Financial Crimes Investigation Division of the police, and the vehicle had been found during a search operation carried out based on a tip received by the police. Owner of the garage says that a person who was said to be the driver of former Deputy Minister Vinayagamurthy Muralidharan had asked him to repair the vehicle. However, the person did not return. Approval was granted to carry out a government analysis on the jeep after the Financial Crimes Investigation Division informed about the vehicle to the Colombo Chief Magistrate Court. A state bank was ordered to issue a report that includes payments made with regard to the jeep. It is reported the vehicle had been released by the customs in the year 2010 according to a request made by the Presidential Secretariat.
Now, measures have been taken to enhance the knowledge of the officials, including the law enforcement sector, related to the sea cucumber industry, which is becoming a high source of foreign income in Sri Lanka. A special forum was held this morning to this end in Colombo. Processed sea cucumbers are a very important export fishery product which brings in over $10 million annually to Sri Lanka. At the same time, it has become a major income source for fishermen in northern Sri Lanka who were affected by the 30 years of conflict. Authorities of fisheries and law enforcement sectors continue to take measures in a bid to manage, conserve and prevent illegal harvesting and smuggling of sea cucumbers. However, they face difficulties in identifying fresh and processed sea cucumbers as 16 varieties of species are being harvested and processed for exports. The forum was jointly organised by the National Research Council, University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, National Aquatic Resources and Research and Development Agency and Sri Lanka Association for Fisheries and Aquatic Resources. Officials representing Sri Lanka Customs, Police, Navy Coast Guards and Ministry of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources participated in the event.
It has been revealed that the stock of mackerel fish imported from Norway and seized by the customs is not suitable for consumption. The custom officials examined the container that contains the fish at the Orugoduwatta container terminal today. The value of the stock is 3 million rupees. The container had been loaded in the vessel Mary, which reached the island on the 14th of this month. The custom officials decided to examine the container on the 20th of this month since frozen mackerel fish is not imported from Norway. The investigations have revealed that the stock had already expired when it was exported. A businessman from Mattakulliya area is said to be the importer.
Now, a diamond tycoon in India has once again given away hundreds of cars and flats to his employees as a bonus for meeting company targets. Samjibhai Dholakia, who runs a diamond export firm in the west coast city of Surat, announced his company would give 1,260 cars, 400 flats and pieces of jewellery to his employees ahead of the Hindu festival of Diwali. Dholakia, who is the owner of Hare Krishna Exports, has stated that they have been gifted since the organisation believes that each employee must have his own home and car in the next 5 years. Therefore, the company would spend an estimated $7 million under the loyalty program to reward an unknown number of staff from a total workforce of 5,500. And now we deviate momentarily from local news to bring you up to date on the US election race. US First Lady Michelle Obama has joined Clinton on the campaign trail for the first time. Now, this is our segment on the US election race, Battle for the White House. US First Lady Michelle Obama joined Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton on the campaign trail for the first time yesterday, encouraging voters in the critical battleground state of North Carolina to cast their ballots early. North Carolina is one of a handful of swing states expected to play a decisive role in who goes to the White House.
A country where the daughter of an orphan can break that highest and hardest glass ceiling and become president of the United States. That is who we are. That is what's possible here in America, but only when we come together. Only when we work for it. Are you with me? Are you with me? I can't hear you. Are we going to do this?
You know, Michelle reminds us to work hard. Stay true to our values. Be good to one another. And never, ever stop fighting for what we believe in. Now, it hasn't been all hard work. She played a mean round of carpool karaoke. And among the many real privileges I've had is to see the President and the First Lady dance. Wow, one could only hope.
Meanwhile, Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump promises to bar the entry of Syrian refugees into the US if he is selected president.
A Trump administration is going to suspend immigration from terror-prone regions, and we will suspend the Syrian refugee program. We're not going to take the risk when it comes to the safety of the American people, no longer. So let me state this as clearly as I can. If I'm elected president, I am going to keep radical Islamic terrorists the hell out of our country.
And from the US, it's time now for us to take a look at some stories making headlines in Asia on our segment, Asia in a Minute. Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte says his country could do joint naval exercises with Japan as he again vents anger at the US during his visit to Yokohama. 34 Japanese high school students are hospitalized with suspected food poisoning after arriving home on a Vietnam Airlines flight, Japanese media reports. Pakistani court orders the closure of all liquor shops in the southern province of Sindh, cutting off one of the few legal alcohol sources in the Muslim-majority country. More than 3,000 inmates formed the Thai symbol for the number 9 yesterday in honor of late King Bhumibol Adulyadej, who died on the 13th of October after 7 decades on the throne. The giant panda Yu got to experience his first snow after heavy snowfall hit northeast China's Heilongjiang province. President Maithripala Sirisena says work on a number of massive irrigation projects will commence within the next few months. The President made this disclosure while attending the 30th annual convention of the Mahawali Engineers Society. It was held at the auditorium of Hector Kobakadu Agrarian Research Institute this morning. The Mahawali Engineers Society also presented a special memento to the President on the occasion. Addressing the gathering, President Maithripala Sirisena said he expects the support of the Mahaweli Engineers Society to make future development activities successful. The President said the present development challenges that lie ahead of the country are different to the ones faced several years ago. Issues such as climatic changes, rising global temperature and environmental conservation were not discussed thoroughly several years back. However, the entire world community has focused on these matters due to the commitment of the United Nations. The challenge that lies ahead of the country at present is to achieve development through environmental-friendly initiatives. President Maithripala Sirisena said he undertook the portfolio of Mahaweli Development and Environment due to his desire towards protecting the environment. He pointed out Sri Lanka has achieved many victories based on its agricultural foundation. Therefore, a number of massive projects are to be implemented in the near future.
Now, the latest research revealed that the number of differently abled persons in Sri Lanka is around 2 million. Now, this is about an activity which will help them stand up in society.
Many people think disabled children should be cornered from the society. But we must know they are not disabled, they are differently abled children.
Surendra Foundation and British Council, in collaboration with the Greer Theatre Company in London, have organised a workshop for trainers who work with the differently abled persons. Several foreign and local institutes were also supported with this training of trainers workshop. The target group was the trainers who work with differently abled persons in the regional areas. The 4-day workshop, with the participation of several foreign trainers, ended today. Use of sign language, music and arts were main subject areas. Main objective was to support the trainers and parents of the disabled persons to overcome the issues pertaining to differently abled persons. Differently abled persons and their parents got the opportunity to attend the workshop during today's programme.
In the meantime, a workshop titled Climate Change and Anthropogenic Activities Impact on Coastal Development and Management was held in Colombo today. It was jointly organised by the Department of Geography of the University of Colombo and the Island Research Centre of the State Oceanic Administration of People's Republic of China. Attention was focused on preventing coastal erosion and impacts that can be caused by illegal sand mining.
To light up Dr. Ranjana, UKPS. And I would like to welcome you all to this.
The coastal research has an important significance on the sustainable development of coastal area. IRC has all along focused on coastal research, island research, and it is international cooperation for these years. As one of the most important island countries, with the experience and achievements of coastal research and management in Sri Lanka, it's very important and very significant for China and for all over the world. Now, I suggest we could expand the cooperation field, not only focus on the research, coastal research, but also to beach management, island and coastal ecological restoration, and integrated coastal zone management.
And I would like to welcome you all to this.
Vallampiri police have arrested 3 persons who had stolen valuable items, including jewellery worth 4 million rupees, yesterday. It has been revealed that the suspects had engaged in the robbery after entering a house in Kudabudgamu area during the night when the residents were not at home. A Kuwait national and his Sri Lankan wife had rented the house. The suspects involved in the robbery are residents of Vallampiri, Grand Pass and Maligawatta. Magistrate Mohammad Nihar ordered the suspects to be remanded till the 11th of next month after they were produced before the Maligawatta Magistrates Court.
The All Shares Price Index closed at 6,424.85 points, increased by 13.65 points, and the S&P SL 20 Index closed at 3,572.36 points, also dropped by 11.70 points at the end of trading in the Colombo Stock Exchange today. Turnover was over 288 million rupees. Here's a summary of market details of the Colombo Stock Exchange today.
Welcome back. Now it's time to have a look at news from around the world. Republican vice presidential candidate Mike Pence has had a narrow escape after his plane slid off the runway while landing in New York City. The Indiana governor told Reuters he was fine after the rough touchdown at LaGuardia Airport. No one was injured. Pence and the other 30 or so passengers were evacuated through the back of the plane. He was coming from a campaign event in Fort Dodge, Iowa. LaGuardia Airport has been closed until further notice. The pilot slammed on the brakes and passengers on the aircraft could smell the burning rubber. Live TV footage showed Pence standing in the rain near the plane among emergency vehicles, talking to police and other officials. The FAA and National Transportation Safety Board said they will investigate the cause of the incident. Time for sports. Now then, the Master Unicella and Commercial Credit teams have qualified for the finals of the Mercantile 2020 cricket tournament. They won the semi-final matches held today. The matches were played at Mercantile Grounds in Colombo. The first semi-final was played between Master Unicella and Sampath Bank. Master's team, who batted first, scored 194 runs for the loss of 8 wickets in their 20 overs. In reply, Sampath Bank was only able to score 175 runs for the loss of 9 wickets. Master Unicella team won the match by 19 runs.
And before we wind up, a quick look at the weather update. The Met Department says showery condition over the island is expected to enhance after the 29th of October 2016. Showers or thundershowers will occur at most parts of the island after 2 p.m. Showers will occur in Western Province and in the Galle and Matra districts in the morning too. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in the Western, Sabaragamuwa, Central and Southern provinces during the morning. There may be temporary localized strong winds during thunder showers. General public is kindly requested to take adequate precautions to minimize damages caused by lightning.
And that's all from us at Rupavahini Channel English News. Thanks for watching.
Good night.
Covering the truth.